What's going on, everyone? It is Mike back again here with the main man, Ian Mills. You know, the main man from Across the Park podcast. I mean, the other guys probably don't like me saying that, but that is how it is on this channel.
Guy. There's only two of us now. The other guy.
The other guy, the one, the only Ian Mills. It's really important that we have a chat about Everton. And we talk about the Newcastle game tomorrow and how it's an absolute must-win. But firstly, how are we, Milsey?
I've got the biggest pint of juice because I've just demolished the salt and pepper chicken, homemade, and I went too far. Other than that, other than Everton, I'm not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm sound, mate. I'm not too bad at all. I'm dealing with the ups and downs of being an Everton fan, as you can imagine. It's really tough. Work is good, life is good, family is good, garden's coming on now. That'll be the last thing in this very beautiful blue house that we've put together, if I do not say so myself. But Everton are affecting me, mate. It would be a lie to say that they're not. The sleepless nights are starting to come back. The stress, the worry. I'm even biting, which is it's getting to that stage now where I've got a short fuse, a short temper, and it's a real struggle, mate. We go into this Newcastle game on the back of ropey form, I would argue. I know we had a bit of a tough patch, but we should have certainly beat Fulham. I think, if I'm being absolutely straight with you, Milzer, you know where people say this is a must not lose? I think this is actually an absolute must win.
If it's not a must, I get why you're saying that, but I think it's going to be the last week of the season, if at all we get out of it, and I think it's going to be uncomfortable viewing, uncomfortable listening, uncomfortable sleepless nights, uncomfortable Evertonia up until then. I don't think Everton have enough to beat Brighton or Manchester City. Leicester, again, a team that you just don't know who's going to turn up. Have they now found the bounce to get out of it? Because they're on the back of a couple of good results. And
also Vardy's just scored, which is always a worry for me.
Yeah, he's back in the goal scoring charts. Newcastle, again, let's make no bones about it. In the 21-22 season, are a top side. Their challenge for them would have to be to put the baseline there and build on it, which we failed to do a couple of times. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Blues. I do think it'll be the last week of the season. I don't think Newcastle is a must-win, but my opinion will change based on other results. And what I don't enjoy, and I understand why people say this, but I don't enjoy people telling me, don't look at other teams' results, concentrate on Everton. How can you not look at other clubs' results? Because that is going to play just as big a part in keeping Everton up as what we do. Last night we got a bit of a touch with the Leeds-Leicester result. Yeah. I think Leicester maybe pulling away would have been a little bit better just to really affect Leeds. I don't see Leeds getting many more points. They've got a chance this weekend to get some points against Bournemouth, and then I think they're done. And I think Everton have to then have the mindset to go into the last weekend of the season and win those two games. And for that reason, as it stands, I don't think tomorrow is must win.
I really wish, Mills, like genuinely, I really wish I was as positive as you. Like, I'm not even saying you're particularly positive, by the way. I'm just saying you're more positive. You know, I think this Everton team, at this stage last season, I was saying Everton were down, and it was a miracle that we stayed up, in my opinion. This season, we're even worse. So based on that, I have to say we're going down. Otherwise, I'm sort of defeating my own argument from last season. We are worse than last season. You know, at this point last season, we had a Richarlison that was fighting for us and fighting for the club. I don't see any player fighting for the club this season, if I'm being truthful. I think Onana's probably the most passionate player, but how much of that is just, you know, the show, the glitz, the glamour, the clout, or is it genuine passion to play for this blue shirt? I'm still on the fence. I really like Onana, by the way, so it's difficult to judge. But unless somebody like Calvert-Lewin grabs this team by the scruff of the neck and carries them over the line, I can't see us scoring enough goals to keep us up, and that is You know, it's going to be the issue all season. You know, when you look at teams like Bournemouth that have scored 31 goals, which is just 7 more than us, and they've conceded 63, which is 22 more than us, or 18 more than us. I can't quite remember the exact number we've got. I'm sure it's in the mid 40s or low 40s. It's ridiculous that we are where we are, but we are where we are because we've lost games at home to teams like Southampton, Wolves. We've not beaten teams like Forest. We've been ahead in games like that. You know, we were ahead at Leeds away. We drew. We were away at Brentford. We drew. You know, this Everton side, we were leading at Forest twice. You know, this Everton side have dropped so many points after being in the lead. And I would say it was a under Lampard mentality, but we're doing it under Dyche. Like, we've done it under Dyche. We did the Forest game under Dyche. You know, at Forest, it was a game that I thought we'd win, and then it was stupid defending. It was pointless defending. It was giving the ball away on a turnover. That, you know, I know it was a poor pass by Iwobi, but these are the small margins that have cost us. And where you're seeing teams like Aston Villa, who, you know, recruited a new manager early because they saw their season was going wrong, and they're now sitting in the form chart under 20 games, second in the league, and after 10 games, they're top. Everton are like, we've almost had that moment where this new manager bounce has happened, and that was the 1-0 win against Arsenal. And then I think every other result I've pretty much expected. I didn't expect to beat Villa at home. I thought we might get a point. I thought we'd beat Fulham, but we didn't. But apart from that, I've not really got much wrong. And we go into this Newcastle game, and I don't know about you, Melzy, but I really worry about not just us going forward, but us defensively in this game, because goal difference is going to be massive come the end of the season. And this team's just managed to stick 6 past Spurs, who were fairly resolute.
It's the same for them. So if Newcastle are looking around their rivals, I'm probably saying the same thing. It's all relative. They're now saying if it comes down to goal difference. Now, without looking at it, I haven't got it in front of me. I imagine there's not a lot between 3 or 4 clubs up there as well. So I imagine, and they go forwards at will. They've got attacking players. And I'll say Maximum's not there tomorrow night or tonight if you're watching this on Thursday. But they've got a really good system. That they're not. I've called them a top team in this season. They're not a top team, but they're a top team this season because you're getting 100%. You're squeezing nearly everything out of them all of the time, nearly every week. There's going to be exceptions. I know Villa turn them over, which should be the way that we set up, really, how Villa done them, which is a couple of sucker punches and really got them in the first 10 minutes. It's one of those where I'm looking. Do you know what, Mike? I'll be honest with you. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also in a weird way really, really scared by it. I don't know how I'm going to feel at the end. Come 10 o'clock, will I be walking down Walton Lane back home, you know, fearing the worst, or will I be buoyed? Will I have that feeling that this fixture gave me last season, where we left the ground and we knew we were a poor side, but there was a heartbeat, there was life, there was still something to go into. I think, you know, there's games again. Southampton versus Bournemouth. We're recording this before the Forest game tonight. Please, God, don't let them get nothing against Brighton. That would really put the cat amongst the pigeons. But you're right, defensively again, we haven't looked really organised for a while. The new manager bounce I said on Across the Park after the Fulham game, that's gone. Don't expect that to be there. The new manager bounce was gone. We got 10 points in that bounce. Now that could be a huge, or it might turn out to not be enough. But the bounce was gone. What we have to do now is we have to get a style of football which suits Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré to really try and hit teams as much as they can at top end of the pitch. And then as soon as that happens, if it does happen, you have to find the style. You have to win ugly. You have to find the dark arts, and you have to do it that way. We will not stay up with the euphoria of Crystal Palace again. We haven't got Richarlison anymore. Richarlison was worth his weight in goals and also goals last season. He's not there. Abdoulaye Doucouré for the great run of form he's in, and I do think he's putting a lot of weight on the shoulders of Abdoulaye Doucouré in the second half of the season. I do think he is not as good in a footballer at scoring goals as Richarlison. Big question, you hit the nail on the head there. It's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. If you can keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit, there's 2 winning goals in him. There's the 6 game. There's enough for him to get 2 winning goals. if you don't keep him fit, then again, you're staring into the abyss. There's so many variables, which is why I'm trying not to get too positive or too negative, because there's so many moving parts. I don't think any Evertonian, if they really sat and thought about it and took the emotion out of it, could definitely say which stay up or go down. I get the emotion. I get the emotion of saying I've give up or I fear the worst because I love this so much and it's going to hurt so much, so I'm getting ready for it. And I get the other side. I get that this will never happen to us. We're Everton. We'll get out of it. I get it. If you take the emotion out of it, I don't think anybody knows what's coming this next month or so.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. So I did a prediction, as we all did, and I predicted this was before the Fulham game. So I predicted that Everton would beat Fulham. I predicted that we'd get a point
Palace.
At Palace. I said we'd beat Newcastle. I said we would get a point at Leicester. We'd lose to Man City. We'd lose to Brighton. We'd get a point at Wolves, and we would beat Bournemouth. And I actually had us finishing about 15th. Now, a lot's changed. We didn't beat Fulham. We didn't even turn up. But obviously, that is our last home game. How do we set up to beat Newcastle now? Because as you said, you've just alluded to Villa, but let's just be straight. Villa have got a much better team than we have. They've got squad depth. They've got a manager that knows Europe inside out. They've got all the things that Everton want. There is an argument, by the way, that this Aston Villa team, I think it was 5 years ago, were relegated. Known as probably a godfather of English football, similar to Everton. Get relegated, reset, come back up, and they look completely different now. So, I mean, there's an argument to the people that believe Everton going down's a positive, that they may have a point, but not for me personally. But there you go. How do we beat this Newcastle side, really? Like, is it literally long ball football into Calvert-Lewin and hope he gets a goal, or is it suck them in, hit them on the break, knowing how much quality they've got in the middle of the park to come back? How do we beat them?
It's going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't.
Good.
You go and beat them by firstly going to try and beat them. If we go into that game as a football club and I pull us all together here, I put the fans and I put the players and I put the coaching staff. If we go into this football game against Newcastle not believing we can win the game and getting really, really nervous in minute 1, 2, and 3, will be done for. We have to try and park that. Now, the reference again to Aston Villa, of course, Aston Villa have got much better footballers. They've got a better manager. They've got a better system, better style. They're going places we're not. But they went to try and beat a team who are going places above them. They see Newcastle come to Villa Park and said, we'll have yous tonight. And if we don't, it won't be for the lack of swinging for you. And that's what Everton have got to do. Everton have not got to go and score 3, 4, 5 goals and play an open game. There's going to be times that we have to sit back, and there's going to be times that the crowds have to then boo the possession the opposition have. There's times that we need to be quite clever within our limited abilities. If Dwight McNeil is one-on-one with the winger on the left-hand side, kick it at him and win a corner. Don't try and beat him and lose it because you're a limited winger, with all due respect. But what you can do is you're fucking fantastic at winning corners, and that gets our big men up. So we've got to play within our limitations, but we have to have the belief to go and beat Newcastle. The fans are already. I know you're massive on socials, Mike, so you must have seen all the plans for tomorrow. The coach is coming in, despite the fact that there's been warnings over no pyro. I'd probably imagine there'll be a lot of pyro. I'd probably put a lot of alcohol, and then I think the fans are going to be in the stadium for half an hour before kickoff. And I read the 1878 originals who thanked the Everton engagement team for letting some new banners in there. And I think, I don't know whether you've seen this, Mike, there's a massive banner which will hang over the Upper Gladys Street tomorrow, which says "Fight for us." That's the atmosphere, mate. When those players come out to the sirens and Z cars tomorrow night, and the sun is setting, we've all got to believe we can win tomorrow. Yeah,
and I love that. I mean, don't we all? I don't want to sit here and be all negative, and
I mean, I'm with it. I have lived it with it on this channel. I have been so down with this football club.
it's really difficult. It's just really difficult, you know. It's yet again, these fans, these fantastic people that, you know, I'm obviously biased to say we are the best fans in the world, but us as a group are having to come together to pull 11 players plus probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 subs, a manager and a board back over the line again after being promised strikers in January, after being, you know, whether it's true or not, which is still very much on the fence, you know, the assault has happened with people of the board where, you know, this board regularly comes out and takes shots at us, where the chairman comes out and makes statement after statement that he's just complete and utter shit. And we sit here and yet again, we are having to save our club. The same club that, by the way, charges us 650, 700 quid for our season tickets, charges us 50, 60 quid for our shirts, plus whatever we pay at half time, in my case, to travel. And it's just, it is a little bit annoying. Well, it's very frustrating that this club, yet again, have got themselves into a situation where the only way they stay up is if we drag them over the line, because they can't get themselves up for this game. They proved it against Fulham. The atmosphere wasn't like that. It wasn't raucous. It wasn't mad in the stadium. And the players couldn't get up for it. They had a 20-minute spout and they bottled it. They didn't even turn up in the second half. Now, I'm telling you now, if we go to the extent of everything that we are doing for those group of players tomorrow, and they bottle it, and I mean bottle it, in my mind, anything less than 3 points. And I know people disagree with that. I know you've just said, you know, potentially about getting a point or whatever. But for me, they have to make amends for Fulham. Fulham was the game that Everton had to win, and we didn't. We bottled it. So they have to beat Newcastle. They have to, because they're not going to beat Man City, and they ain't going to Brighton, which basically leaves this game, Leicester, Wolves, and Bournemouth. I don't necessarily fancy my chances at Wolves. I'm worried about Leicester now that Vardy's scoring goals, because he loves a goal against Everton. So that now concerns me, which only leaves Bournemouth at home and this game. Now, as you say, I also don't think Leeds are going to get many more points.
No.
So if it's a case of they pick up 3 points before the end of the season, we have to, because of goal difference, because ours is poor. Yeah. And Leeds isn't great, by the way, because they've just been dicked 11 goals, 12, whatever it is, and they've conceded in 3-4 games. But Everton have to win. It is that simple. And if they don't, if they bottle it after we do all of this for them, the club's a disgrace. Like, the club is an absolute disgrace. And, you know, people are also not talking about this game tonight, as you've just rightly said, Forest. If Forest win tonight, that puts another team in the mix to stay up, because I personally think Forest are gone. It's just whether it's us or Leeds, in my opinion. So that's my worry, mate. That is my worry. We can go to all this extent. We can do everything we can to keep this club in the Premier League. And if these players bottle it this season, I don't know what effect that has on the fans going forward, because we'd all, you know, I don't mean to joke about this, but we would all be very, very emotional tomorrow. You know, we would all of us, come 10 o'clock at night, will be on our knees thinking, we have literally thrown everything at this, and we've lost, or we've drew, and it scares the shit out of me, mate. It hurts. It hurts. You can hear the passion in my voice, the anger. It hurts, and I'm terrified about tomorrow. I'm making no bones about it. I am absolutely shitting myself about tomorrow, because, in my opinion, this is going to be the biggest game in Everton's history. And we said it a few times last season. We've even said it a couple of times this season. This game is absolutely, not maybe necessarily the history, but one of the most important games in Everton's at least recent history, because I'm telling you, if we lose, we're down. I truly believe that.
It feels different to last season. Now, last season, without speaking for everybody, I sensed there wasn't the biggest fear until right before Chelsea, when Burnley beat Watford and we went 5 points. I think that was the moment. I remember speaking in WhatsApp groups with my mates, and people, even the most positive of my mates, were like, I am shitting it.
Yeah.
I think before then, there was a mix of, we just got rid of the big bad wolf. We had Richarlison. We kept thinking Dominic Calvert-Lewin would come back. This was one of the earliest stages where he was, we were pinning everything on him. We've since learned better. Or have we? We
haven't. We've actually learnt worse.
We had like Dele Alli, Donny van de Beek, and there's all these unknowns, tangibles. And Frank Lampard came in, and we believed in him at the time. I think it's been a prolonged fear and a prolonged anger this season, and that's why I think a lot of fans now are at tipping points where they're just sort of done with it. The Fulham game, I'm guilty of this. I didn't turn up with a big loud voice, and I didn't drag anyone.
I didn't. I was convinced. I had the wrong mentality. I was convinced we were going to beat Fulham. Absolutely convinced. Hellbent. You couldn't have told me any other way. I was guaranteeing 3 points to Everton. Wrong attitude.
And Newcastle, I feel I have to go down to that ground, and I shouldn't have to. But I'm talking before the game.
Yeah.
Last season, I wanted to go and help. Now I feel like I shouldn't have to, but I've got to. I've got to go and try and play some part.
Yeah.
There's loads of me inside, mate, the same as you. Angry, pissed off with the whole thing. I think the last 2 transfer windows, or let's talk about the last 3, maybe even include January last year, have made us worse as a football team. They've made the fan base in turn angrier. That has then prompted delusion from the boardroom, which has just angered even more. Then you look at a gang of players who, let's be honest, aren't a very good football team. Everton stay up this season by being the 4th worst team in the Premiership. That's nowhere near what we should be after going through last season and after having 60 million to spend in the summer through having to sell our best player. So I'm with you. There's lots of anger. I feel I've got to go down and I've got to get behind this team now. I've got no choice. I have got no choice but to get behind this team.
Let's talk about the starting 11. I'm assuming you watched Dyche's press conference yesterday.
Yeah, so I think he said Coleman and Onana are on the grass. I know Coleman's was hamstring, so the difficulty is, yourself. If the hamstring goes again, you've lost him for the season.
How much have we missed him, by the way? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, by the way, but how much have we missed him?
Unbelievably, because this manager is playing him in a way that the previous manager really should have. Now, Lampard liked a little bit of a higher line. He liked the full-backs to have a nice little 1-2 with a defensive midfielder and then try and overlap. Dyche is asking Seamus Coleman to defend and asking Michael Keane or James Tarkowski or Idrissa Gana Guy to help him when needed. So he's putting players around Coleman that can help, and he's been so important. His passion, his leadership. We need him back, but we need him for the run. Unless he's 100% fit, I don't know. I know the manager won't, but I'd play Nathan Patterson if Coleman's not fit. If Coleman's fit, he gets in.
I agree.
But I agree. I just wouldn't risk him going down for the next 5 games, especially one of those games is Leicester in a few days' time. He could be essential. I think he'll go Keane Tarkowski. I think he likes that. I think that makes him feel safe. And I also think the keeper doesn't mind that. The keeper came in at the same time Michael Keane did. I think he's played a number of games with Michael Keane. I think he feels okay with him. I think he'll play Mikalenko. I personally wouldn't. I would put Ben Godfrey back there.
Agreed.
I thought Mikalenko against Fulham and Palace was the worst player on the pitch. Both times.
Agreed. Yeah.
Whether he will or won't.
£20 million, by the way. 20 mil. Next.
Yeah, just an example. I think if Onana's fit, he comes in with Decore, and I would play Idrissa Gana Guy. I wouldn't play James Garner. I'd stick with Idrissa Gana Guy in there. And then I'd go
Neil, Gray, Calvert-Lewin.
I would go Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And then you've got 2 from 3, haven't you? Yeah. Does he play Alex Iwobi out wide? I think he probably does. And I think that means Damari Gray drops to the bench.
Yeah, but to be honest, Tamari hasn't played very well recently anyway, so I've got no issues with that. And to be honest, it's not far off my team. I think Patterson comes in. I think the only sort of weirdly, the only change I actually make to the team is I bring in a player that seems to be playing out of his skin at the moment, playing fantastic. I mentioned him 3 weeks ago before he went even better. I would have Stanley Mills on the bench, and I would not be scared about bringing the kid on either.
No, I agree. I really do agree. I think he scored 13 in 18. Now, if that for the under 21s, and now I'm not saying he's the answer, and I'm sure you're not, but
no.
If you say to him at some point in the game, "There's the cape, lad. See what you can do 15 minutes. No pressure. No pressure. Do what you do every Tuesday night or Thursday night."
Yeah.
Don't see
I
why
completely agree. I completely agree, and this is where we don't utilise these players. You know, it took. Do you remember how many months it took for us to see Anthony Gordon originally? Do you remember how many times we were screaming to see him and under different managers? And it's like he doesn't play, he goes out on loan, he comes back, and he has a few good games, and then he stays in the team. Stanley Mills looked absolutely sensational pre-season. He's looked all right in the times I've seen him playing the blue shirt. Now, he absolutely deserves to minimum sit on the bench, and it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me if he has more end product than, well, seriously at the minute, Damari Gray. It really wouldn't. It sounds mad because he also can defend. You know, this is a kid that started as a right back, so he's got no issue going backwards as much as he's got going forwards, and he's got bags of energy. So for me, he goes in the side. I completely agree with the 11. Mikolenko should be nowhere near the team. Patterson should start, but we need the Patterson back that we had prior to his injury because it scares me, if I'm being honest. I'm glad he's not playing up against Anna St. Maximum, but they've got a lot of quality Newcastle in wide areas. Almiron, Jacob Murphy. You know, they've got Wilson who will pull wide if he starts. They've got Isaac who can play anywhere across the four and cause problems.
Joe Linton likes to join in as well, doesn't he?
He's got Joe Linton, physicality, a little bit of skill, power. And of course, you know, Anthony Gordon will pop up anywhere as well, won't he? So there's a lot of areas that Newcastle can hurt us tomorrow. They've also got a fantastic defensive record, really, in hindsight. So, yeah, mate. Look, I'm worried. This has probably been certainly the most aggressive match reaction I've personally have. I'm sitting here boiling over because I almost wish that those players in that dressing room could hear every word that every single fan, content creator, you know, TikToker, YouTuber, whatever you are, about Everton. I really wish they could hear to every single word that we're saying, because the absolute minimum tomorrow is 100%. I do not want to see any player bottle anything. And look, we all make bad passes. We all get put under pressure. Newcastle are a good side, and they're going to have the ball. They're going to have pressure. They're going to be able to expand the play quickly. And we might not cope at times. But it's if we crumble. And if this Everton team crumble after the fans do everything that they're going to do, then honestly, they are an absolute disgrace, and they do not to wear the football shirt. And they don't deserve it. And that is me laying it down as much as I can without me telling them. Because if they lose tomorrow, I'm absolutely hell-bent convinced they're going down. And last year, I would have cried. It would have killed me. This season, it's just anger. It's just anger towards the board. It's gross negligence what they're dragging us through. I hate them, and I don't know them personally, so I'm not digging out their personalities here. But I despise them as owners and the board members of Everton Football Club, and they've put us in a position, rightly or wrongly, through lack of investment, good investment, bad investment, millions of managers that have strategies, don't have strategies, players coming in working under different managers who have different plans and identities, promising managers money and they're not delivering it. I think if Everton lose tomorrow, I think this board, I think they're going to have the biggest slap in the face possible in terms of the realisation that this football club's going down and they're about to lose millions of pounds.
I don't think anyone in that boardroom is bright enough to think how you've just said they should be thinking. I've watched now for years, like years and years, Bill Kenwright, and there's always been the aspect of Everton don't go down, Everton don't breach FFP, Everton don't go bankrupt. There's always been that element of the fans who sort of understands where we were as a club. Let him go and find a billionaire. But I have seen this for years. It is like pantomime, and he thinks he's the hero, but he's the villain. It's like a pantomime with him. And last Friday, it wasn't even. For me, it wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg was years ago. This is just now. This is a prank. And I know you've done a video on this Ken Wright's speech, but I don't think I spoke to you since. Really, one of the key things I took from that, and this is linked to what I'm saying with delusion in that boardroom, is one of the things he said. He said, us as a board and our advisors are trying to. Who the hell are the advisors? Because they're pissed as well. What are you doing? Is no one reading the room here? Is no one able to put their arm around Bill Kenwright? As I don't care who you are and what you believe, you could believe he is the best chairman in the world. But can no one put their arm around him and say, Bill, now is the time? Look at what? Look at how many fan groups now. There was only one. There was only the Blue Union. There was only the 27 campaign. Now there's a movement. You have nearly every fan channel. I don't know one fan channel, not one, who stick up for the board. The local press have gone. One of the major media outlets who you can listen to in the car have gone. They've got the board have no allies. I feel sorry for some of the lads who work there because they're good lads and they're probably going through the motions themselves. But it is absolute criminal that no one who cares about Bill Kenwright has put their arm around him and said, Bill, now's the time. Sit you down. Now is the time. Because I don't think he is bright enough. If Everton go down, he will not think it's his fault. He will absolutely not take any blame. We will probably get a statement, which will probably be edited now after the last one was a joke, and it will not apologise. It will not read the room. It will be all about Bill Kenwright. And mate, I tell you what, until he cuts that ribbon at Bramley Moore, he's not going nowhere.
Yeah, agreed. And there we go. And
I came out positive, and I'm going to go down and need to take the dog for a walk now.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Score prediction, Melzer.
Score prediction: 1-1. I do think Everton will draw the game 1-1. I think similar to the Tottenham game where there was moments, despite Tottenham being on a bit of a bad run, there was moments in a Tottenham game 3 weeks ago where when they had the ball, they were clearly the better team. They were switching play, and we had to get into shape, and the crowd had to stay with them. And we had to pick our moments. It wasn't like we had 4 or 5 chances there. We had to pick our moments. I think it'll be similar to that. Newcastle will score, Everton will score, it'll be 1-1. What about you?
1-0 Everton.
After all that.
But mate, I can't sit here and say we've got to win and then go and predict a defeat. So, yeah, Everton win 1-0 tomorrow. Alex Iwobi scores a goal. It's that simple. He loves a goal against Newcastle, doesn't he?
Do one.
There will be drama. I suspect somebody will get sent off tomorrow, and I actually think crazily it might be a Newcastle player. So. We will see. We will see. I am not positive. If you're asking me where that score prediction comes from, it comes from my heart and not my head. If my head was rolling, I'd probably say 2-0 Newcastle. And that's just being absolutely bluntly honest. But I think we need to win. I think the players will know we need to win. The fans are going to be absolutely magnificent. I mean, honestly, you're not. If you were neutral watching this channel and you get the pick of all the games on BT or whatever you're going to watch this game, because you will see Everton being the best football team in the absolute world. And that isn't the players on the pitch, that's the fans. And trust me, we're the best fans in the world. So I don't care who you support. I'm telling you now, we're the best fans in the world.
It's going to be rocking, mate. It's going to be absolutely rocking.
Oh, foundations will be gone and everything. The Gladys Street will be on his back by the end. Guys, look, you can see Millsy on Across the Park podcast. You also do other little bits for other channels that sometimes don't use, but make sure you go and follow Millsy's on the socials as well. He's my Everton rock, if we're being honest. He's my Everton rock. He's the person that I reach out to if I'm feeling shit, and it's been rough lately, but we've said that we're going to get a video done together. It's been my fault that we haven't. I'm really glad that Millsy stepped up to my busy schedule, and he's found a bit of time for me. And make sure you go and subscribe and you like all of the videos and the content that Across the Park do. Their content is fantastic. It's very raw. It's very emotional. It's similar to my channel, really, but I'd argue that it's better from them because they're more constructive than I am. I'm just an angry brummer, unfortunately. That's all I've got. I mean, that's probably the worst outro you've ever had in it, Millsy, but I've got nothing, man. I've got nothing.
I've participated in worse. Don't you worry. We're in this together. We're unfortunately, as a fan base, we're being dragged through it. It's not been a year. It's been more than a year, so it hurts all of us. Hurts the most positive Evertonians. You could an Evertonian could think that Everton ran like Sony at the minute, but they'll be hating by what the club's going through. And Evertonian can think the club has ran like the worst thing in the world. In turn, they'll be hating by what the team are putting us through. It's tough, mate. It's really tough. We've got each other, like you said. We are the best set of supporters in the land. Tomorrow night, for the team in the relegation zone to do it again, the supporters, we'll show everybody just what this club means to us. And the song says it all, mate. We fight with all our might for the boys in the royal blue jersey, and it starts with Newcastle. This is the run, mate. We're in it. There's no more looking ahead. We're in it. Let's fucking have it.
Fucking love that. That's a proper outro. That is. You see that, peeps? That's professional. That is from the man over there. Professional. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you go to Across the Park. Make sure you subscribe. Go on Twitter. Find Ian Mills. It'll be Across the Park podcast, and then he likes all of his own comments because he's sad like that. So make sure you go and follow him on Twitter as well. Make sure you follow him on there. Make sure you follow me, Blue Boys Network, on Facebook and Twitter as well. And apart from that, look, we keep smiling, we keep progressing, or regressing, I'd argue, but we're getting there. And look, the alarm that's gone off in Millsy's background for the last 39 minutes, just feel sorry for his ears, man. Just feel sorry for him, all right? Guys, peace. Peace.